Welcome to Night Whispers, where the darkness speaks.
Have you ever wondered why so many strange things happen at 3 a.m.? They say it's the witching hour, the devil's hour, a time when the veil between our world and something darker becomes thin. Tonight's story is about a man named Ethan, who starts hearing a knock on his door at exactly 3 a.m. every single night. But one night he makes the terrible mistake of opening it. Ethan lived alone in a small, weathered wooden house at the edge of town, where the streetlights ended and the woods began. His life was quiet, predictable. Nothing unusual ever happened, until one Tuesday. He was asleep deep in a dream he can't remember, when a sound jolted him awake. At exactly 3 a.m. he heard it. K-N-O-K. Knock. Knock. Slow. Deep. Each knock was heavy. He froze in bed, his ears straining for any other sound. But there were no footsteps crunching on the gravel outside, no car engine idling. No voice, just the heavy silence that followed the 3 knocks. His first thought was a prank. Some kids messing around. Annoyed, he crept out of bed and peered through the living room window, which gave him a clear view of his porch. Nothing. The moonlight cast long, skeletal shadows from the trees, but the porch was completely empty. He checked the peephole. Again, no one. He shook his head, convincing himself it was just a prank or maybe the wind rattling something loose. He went back to bed, a little unsettled, but sure it wouldn't happen again. He was wrong. The next night he was already awake, his eyes fixed on the glowing red numbers of his alarm clock. 2:58. 2:59. He held his breath, and right on cue, at exactly 3 a.m., K-N-O-C-K. 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 The same heavy, deliberate sound. But this time something else followed. A voice. It was a whisper. So close, it sounded like it was right behind the door, its breath fogging the wood. It said, "Ethan." "I know you're awake." His heart hammered against his ribs. How did it know his name? His little house was isolated. He kept to himself. No one in town really knew him. Panic seized him. He fumbled for his phone on the nightstand, his hands shaking so badly he almost dropped it. He quickly dialed the police. He pressed the phone to his ear, expecting to hear a dispatcher's voice, but all he got was static. A loud, hissing static, as if the line was being intentionally blocked. Then the voice whispered again, closer this time, more insistent. "Don't call them. They can't help you. Come open the door." Ethan didn't sleep a wink that night. He just sat in his bed, listening to the silence, praying for the sun to rise. On the 3rd night, Ethan was determined to be prepared. He found his old, dusty security camera in a box in the closet and set it up on a bookshelf, pointing directly at the front door. He wasn't going to be caught off guard again. He went to bed with a heavy-duty flashlight clutched in his hand, its beam cutting a nervous circle on the ceiling. He stared at his phone, watching the live feed from the camera. The empty porch looked menacing in the grainy black and white footage. His clock ticked over to 3 a.m., and the knock came again, but this time it was louder, more aggressive. "Knock! Knock! Knock!" He forced himself to keep his eyes on his phone screen. His breath hitched. There was someone at the door. A figure. It was tall, impossibly tall, and completely black. It wasn't wearing black clothes. It was made of blackness, a void in the shape of a man, absorbing all the light around it, making the porch seem darker. But the most terrifying part, it ad nofis, just a smooth, empty, featureless oval where a face should be. Ethan felt a scream rising in his throat. Asewached frozen in horror. The figure slowly lifted its hand and waved directly at the camera. At him, Ethan let out a strangled cry and dropped his phone. He couldn't take it anymore. For the next 3 nights, he tried everything. He boarded up the peephole. He pushed his heaviest armchair against the door. He even tried to stay awake, chugging coffee until his hands trembled. But exhaustion always won. On the 4th night of his vigil, he finally drifted off around 2:58 a.m., his head slumping against the headboard. At 3 a.m., he was violently woken up. Boom! Boom! Boom. The knocks were like explosions. They shook the entire house, rattling the windows in their frames. His lights flickered on and off. He could hear breathing on the other side of the door. A slow, wet, guttural sound. It sounded human, but not quite. Then the whisper came, laced with a chilling sense of anticipation. "Let me in, Ethan. I've waited for so long." Something inside Ethan snapped. The fear that had paralyzed him for days curdled into a desperate rage. He grabbed a large kitchen knife from the block and stormed towards the door, his heart pounding with a mix of terror and adrenaline. "Stop coming here! Leave me alone!" he screamed, his voice cracking. For a moment, there was complete silence. He thought maybe, just maybe, he'd scared it away. Then the voice spoke again, its tone suddenly calm, almost sad. "Just open the door, Ethan, or I will come inside anyway." And then he saw it. The doorknob. It was slowly, impossibly, beginning to turn by itself. Panic overrode all reason. Ethan lunged forward, grabbed the handle, and yanked the door open, ready to face whatever was on the other side. But there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. No creature. No shadow. Who-stickled empty night air, and the chirping of crickets. He stood there, panting, the knife trembling in his hand. Confused and shaken, he took a hesitant step outside onto the porch, looking left and right, trying to make sense of it all. And that's when he heard it. The sound that would seal his fate. The click of the lock, and the door slamming shut behind him. From inside the house, he spun around and grabbed the handle. Locked. He was locked out of his own home. He heard footsteps inside. Slow, deliberate. Walking from the living room, through the hallway. Then, the lights inside the house turned on, one by one. The bathroom, the kitchen, the bedroom. The thing was inside. It was exploring his home. Ethan screamed, pounding on the door with his bare fists. "Let me in! This is my house!" But then, the shadow figure walked past the living room window. And now, a face. It had his face. It stopped and looked out at him, a perfect copy of his own features twisted into a sickening, triumphant smile. The next morning, police were called to investigate a neighbor's report of screaming. They found Ethan's house, undisturbed. The door was securely locked from the inside. There were no signs of forced entry. But Ethan was gone. The only thing they found was the recording from his security camera. The footage was hours long, showing nothing but an empty porch. But in the very last 2 seconds, the shadowy, faceless figure filled the frame, staring directly into the lens. It leaned in close, and a familiar whisper echoed through the static. "Next time," answered the door. Then the tape cut to black. So, if you ever hear a knock at your door at 3 a.m., don't open it. Don't speak. Don't even look through the window. Just lie still, hold your breath, and hope that it isn't calling your name.